I had to protect myself and my baby from negative energy, SIL explained when she uninvited my wife to her baby shower. A week later, we received her call. I recently married the love of my life, Fiona, and life felt like a perfect dream. Every morning I'd wake up next to her feeling like the luckiest man alive. We'd been together for 3 years before tying the knot, and our relationship had always been filled with laughter, understanding, and deep love. Coming from a close-knit family, I was especially grateful that Fiona got along wonderfully with everyone, particularly my brother Matthew, who's been my best friend since childhood. Matthew and I have always been inseparable. Growing up, we shared everything, from toys to secrets to dreams about our future families. When he met Amber 2 years ago, I was thrilled for him. She was ambitious, organized, and seemed to make him happy, though I noticed early on that she could be particular about things. She had this way of always needing to be in control, planning everything down to the minute, and sometimes getting visibly frustrated when things didn't go exactly as she'd envisioned. The day everything changed started normally enough. We'd planned a casual lunch at a cozy Italian place downtown that Matthew and I had been going to since college. Amber, now 6 months pregnant with their first child, my future nephew, was glowing despite her occasional complaints about swollen ankles and back pain. The conversation flowed easily as we shared plates of pasta and discussed baby names. Matthew was practically bouncing in his seat with excitement about becoming a father, his eyes lighting up every time he talked about the nursery they were preparing. That's when he looked at me with that nostalgic smile I knew so well and said, "Man, I hope the baby turns out like you. You were such a cute kid." I could still picture those old family photos he was probably thinking of, me with my gap-toothed grin and perpetually skinned knees, always ready for the next adventure. It was a sweet moment of brotherly affection, something typical of our relationship. But Amber's reaction changed everything. Her face hardened immediately, her fork pausing halfway to her mouth. "No," she drew out the word in that way people do when they're trying to sound casual but clearly aren't. "I'd much rather he turns out like you." Her tone was dismissive, almost hostile. Matthew, ever the peacemaker, tried to smooth things over. "No, seriously," he insisted. "We'd be lucky if the kid was like my brother. He was such a nice and cute kid." He even pulled out his phone, probably planning to show some old photos we'd recently digitized from our childhood albums. But Amber wasn't having it. She turned to me, her eyes sharp and calculating, and said with this artificial sweetness, "No, but you're so much more handsome," before adding that pointed, "No offense." The way she said it made it clear she meant every bit of offense possible. The tension at the table was palpable. Our waiter, approaching with fresh ground pepper, actually hesitated before coming closer. Fiona, who had been quietly enjoying her carbonara, set down her fork, her body language shifting into what I recognized as her protective stance. That's when Fiona made her joke. "Well, as long as the baby doesn't look like Amber, we should be fine." She delivered it with a light tone and a small laugh, clearly trying to break the tension with humor, the way we often did in our family. What happened next was like watching a storm form in fast motion. Amber's face went through a series of expressions, first shock, then rage, then this cold, calculated anger that was somehow worse than any outburst. Her cheeks flushed red, her knuckles whitening around her water glass. "What the hell does that mean?" she spat, her voice trembling with fury. "That's extremely rude. We're not close enough for jokes like that." She didn't just stop there. She pushed her chair back with such force it scraped loudly against the floor, causing nearby diners to turn and stare. "I can't believe you would say something so insensitive to a pregnant woman," she continued, her voice rising. "Do you have any idea how hormonal and sensitive I am right now? This is completely unacceptable." Tears started forming in her eyes, whether from genuine hurt or manipulation, I couldn't tell. She grabbed her purse and stood up, one hand protectively over her belly as if Fiona's words had been a physical attack. "I don't want anything to do with people who would treat me this way during my pregnancy," she declared. "This is supposed to be a special time for me, and you're ruining it." Matthew looked torn between staying to smooth things over and following his upset pregnant wife. He shot me an apologetic look before hurrying after Amber, who was already making her way to the door. practically shoving past a waitress carrying a full tray. The rest of the restaurant had gone quiet, the kind of uncomfortable silence that follows a public scene. Fiona and I sat there, our half-eaten meals growing cold, trying to process what had just happened. Our perfect family dynamic had shattered in the space of a few minutes over what should have been a forgettable exchange of banter. Days later, I received a long text message from Amber formally disinviting Fiona from the baby shower. The message was scathing, filled with accusations about Fiona's cruelty and lack of sensitivity toward pregnant women. She even went so far as to suggest that Fiona might create a negative energy that could affect the baby. Fiona, hurt but maintaining her dignity, said she wouldn't have wanted to attend anyway. But I could see how much this was affecting her. She'd been excited about becoming an aunt, had already bought several thoughtful gifts for the baby, and had been planning to help with the shower preparations. Now I find myself in an impossible position. My brother has been my best friend for my entire life. We've never missed any important moments in each other's lives. The thought of not being there when he becomes a father for the first time feels wrong on every level. But how can I attend when my wife has been so blatantly excluded and insulted? Matthew has been texting me regularly, trying to smooth things over, suggesting that maybe after some time passes, Amber will calm down and we can all reconcile. But knowing Amber's personality and seeing how she's handled this situation, I'm not so sure. This feels like a turning point, one of those moments where family dynamics shift permanently, and I'm terrified of making the wrong choice. Every option seems wrong. If I attend the shower, I'm essentially validating Amber's treatment of my wife. If I don't go, I'm missing one of the most important moments of my brother's life. I'm trapped between my loyalty to my brother and my devotion to my wife, and for the first time in my life, I don't know how to be both a good brother and a good husband. Update 1. I read through the comments from everyone who responded, and I appreciate all the different perspectives. After some reflection, I realized that this whole situation could have been handled better. I mean, all of us would have acted differently, but in the heat of the moment, things just spiraled out of control. I need to emphasize something about my wife, Fiona. She's not the mean-spirited person some might imagine from this incident. Yes, her sense of humor can occasionally have a sharp edge, but at her core, she's one of the most compassionate and genuine people I've ever known. She's the type of person who remembers everyone's birthdays, who brings soup to sick neighbors, who stays up late helping friends through rough patches. That's who she really is, and that's why I fell in love with her. The joke she made that day, while admittedly poorly timed, was so far from her true character. After much contemplation, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with Fiona about the baby shower situation. We sat down one evening after dinner, and I explained my dilemma. Before I could even finish, she surprised me with her response. "I don't want to be the reason you miss it. If you want to go, just go," she said, her voice soft but firm. She even offered to reach out to Amber with an apology, though she made it clear she wouldn't attend the shower even if re-invited. The environment would be too uncomfortable, and she didn't want to risk causing any more tension during what should be a joyous occasion. Looking at her that evening, seeing her willingness to step aside for my relationship with my brother despite being hurt herself, I knew I couldn't attend without her. This wasn't about taking sides or making a statement. It was about standing by my wife, supporting her through an uncomfortable situation that had spiraled far beyond its origins. Some might say I was choosing my wife over my brother, but I saw it differently. I was choosing to honor my marriage vows, to stand by my partner through good times and bad. When I called my brother to explain my decision, his response showed me exactly why we've always been so close. There was no anger, no guilt-tripping, no attempt to change my mind. Instead, he simply said, "I get it, man, don't worry about it." His understanding meant the world to me. He even tried to lighten the mood, saying, "We'll save you some food and I'll drop it off later," followed by a playful suggestion that I could claim the world's shortest COVID, just long enough for the baby shower but miraculously recovered the next day. His ability to handle the situation with such grace and understanding only reinforced that I'd made the right decision in being honest with him. However, what happened at the baby shower was far worse than anything I could have anticipated. My cousin sent me a video of the event, and watching it felt like a punch to the gut. The shower was held in my mother's backyard, decorated beautifully with pale blue and silver balloons, fresh flowers, and elegant table settings. Everything looked perfect until Amber decided to make her speech. She stood up holding her glass of sparkling cider. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," she began, her voice carrying across the garden. "Well, almost everyone." The pause that followed was heavy with meaning, and I could see several guests shifting uncomfortably in their seats. "Some of you might have noticed that my sister-in-law Fiona isn't here today," Amber continued, her voice taking on a wounded tone that seemed carefully cultivated. "I wanted to address this because I believe in being honest with family." She then launched into a detailed account of the restaurant incident, but her version was dramatically different from reality. According to Amber, Fiona had deliberately tried to humiliate her, making cruel comments about her appearance while she was in a vulnerable pregnant state. "Can you imagine?" Amber's voice cracked with emotion. "Someone being so insensitive to a pregnant woman, making jokes about how my baby shouldn't look like me." She wiped away tears that seemed to appear on cue. "I had to protect myself and my baby from that kind of negative energy. My doctor says stress isn't good for the baby, and I couldn't risk having someone so toxic around during this special time." The video showed my mother's face during this speech, a mixture of concern and confusion. She knew Fiona, knew her character, but Amber's performance was compelling. My cousin later told me that Amber went on for almost 15 minutes, painting herself as the victim of cruel treatment while simultaneously spreading subtle implications about Fiona's character. The effects of Amber's speech were immediate and far-reaching. Family members who had known and liked Fiona for years started sending concerned messages. Some relatives began sharing stories on social media about toxic in-laws and protecting your peace during pregnancy, with obvious implications. My aunt, who had always adored Fiona, called to ask if everything was okay in our marriage, suggesting that Fiona might benefit from counseling to address her obvious issues with maternal figures. The impact on Fiona was devastating. She's always cared deeply about what others think of her, and watching her reputation being systematically destroyed was heartbreaking. She started crying herself to sleep at night, something I'd never seen her do before. During the day, she put on a brave face, but I could see how each new message or social media post cut deep. One night, I found her sitting in our home office, staring at old family photos from Christmas last year when everyone had been happy and getting along. "I never meant to cause all this," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It was just a stupid joke. How did it turn into this?" The situation has created a rift in our family that seems to grow wider by the day. My brother, caught between his pregnant wife and his brother, has become increasingly distant. Our weekly calls have dwindled to occasional texts. Our parents are trying to stay neutral, but clearly feel torn. Even extended family gatherings have become complicated, with people taking sides and tensions simmering beneath polite surfaces. What started as a single thoughtless joke has evolved into something that threatens to permanently alter our family dynamics. Amber's performance at the baby shower wasn't just about excluding Fiona. It was about ensuring that the narrative of what happened would be controlled by her version of events, making it increasingly difficult for any future reconciliation. As I watch my wife struggle with the fallout and see my relationship with my brother becoming more strained, I can't help but wonder how we'll move forward from this. The impending birth of my nephew, which should be a joyous occasion bringing our family closer together, has instead become a symbol of division and hurt feelings. The question now isn't just about attending a baby shower. It's about how we can possibly rebuild these broken relationships and whether some damages might be too deep to repair. Update 2. A week has passed since I shared my story, and your comments have given me a lot to think about. I realized we needed someone with perspective and wisdom to help navigate this situation, and that person was my mom. She's always been the family peacekeeper, the one who could smooth over conflicts and help us see different viewpoints, so I knew her intervention could make a difference. After discussing it with Fiona, we decided to drive to my parents' house that Sunday afternoon. As we pulled into the driveway, I noticed my mom watching from the kitchen window, her face etched with concern. She must have sensed something was wrong when I called earlier asking if we could come over. I started explaining everything: the lunch at the Italian restaurant, Fiona's joke, Amber's reaction, and the subsequent fallout. As I spoke, I could see my mom's expression shifting from concern to disappointment. She listened intently, occasionally glancing at Fiona, who sat quietly beside me. When I finished, my mom's response wasn't what I expected. Instead of the immediate support I'd hoped for, she fixed me with a look I hadn't seen since I was a teenager in trouble. "Why didn't you step in earlier?" she asked, her voice carrying that particular mix of love and disappointment that only mothers can achieve. "You should have managed this situation before it escalated to this point." My dad, typically more reserved in family matters, surprisingly spoke up. "Son," he said, leaning forward in his chair, "when you're married, you have to be proactive in protecting both your wife and your extended family relationships. Waiting until things get this bad isn't the way to handle it." Their criticism, though well-intentioned, felt like a heavy weight on my shoulders. I could feel their judgment, not just about this situation, but about my ability to handle adult relationships and family dynamics. The pressure of trying to keep everyone happy while being scrutinized by my parents was overwhelming. Fiona, sensing my distress, spoke up for the first time since we'd arrived. She explained her perspective, her voice steady despite her obvious emotion. She talked about how her joke, though poorly timed, wasn't meant to hurt anyone, and how she'd been struggling with the backlash and isolation since the incident. My mom's expression softened as she listened to Fiona. After a moment of silence, she suggested that Fiona should send Amber a heartfelt message, explaining her side and apologizing for any unintended hurt. Despite her uncertainty about whether Amber would even read it, Fiona agreed. That evening, sitting at our parents' dining room table, Fiona crafted a careful, sincere message to Amber. She spent over an hour writing and rewriting, wanting to strike the right tone. My mom occasionally offered suggestions, helping to phrase things in a way that would be received well by someone in Amber's emotional state. The days that followed were tense. Every phone notification made us jump, wondering if it was a response from Amber. The strain was evident in every family interaction. Sunday dinners at my parents' house, once a cherished tradition, became awkward affairs. My mom tried to maintain normalcy, but the elephant in the room was impossible to ignore. Then, unexpectedly, Amber called Fiona. When Fiona's phone lit up with Amber's name, I watched my wife's face pale. She stepped into our home office to take the call, and I could see her packing through the glass door, her free hand fidgeting nervously with her necklace. To our amazement, Amber began the conversation with an apology. She opened up about her pregnancy struggles, admitting that she'd been feeling incredibly self-conscious about her changing body. My wife's joke, though not malicious, had hit a raw nerve during a vulnerable time. This confession led to a deeper conversation between them. Amber revealed that my brother and our parents had helped her see things from a different perspective. She admitted something surprising. Fiona's joke hadn't actually hurt her as deeply as she'd pretended. Rather, she'd used the incident as an opportunity to center attention on herself during her pregnancy, a decision she now regretted. My brother called shortly after, and our conversation helped piece together more of what had happened behind the scenes. He shared how he'd wanted to intervene earlier, but had been walking a delicate line, trying to support his pregnant wife while also maintaining family harmony. He explained how our parents, particularly our mom, had played a crucial role in helping Amber understand the bigger picture. The aftermath of this resolution brought unexpected changes to our family dynamics. Our regular family gatherings resumed, but with a new level of understanding and sensitivity. Fiona and Amber began building a genuine friendship, bonding over their shared experience of joining our family and navigating its complexities. My relationship with my parents also evolved. While their initial disappointment had stung, I came to appreciate their wisdom and guidance. They had pushed me to be a better husband and brother, even when it was uncomfortable to hear their criticism. The Sunday dinners at my parents' house became special again, but different. There was a new depth to our conversations, a greater appreciation for each other's feelings and perspectives. My mom still made her famous apple pie, but now it represented not just comfort, but healing and growth. Looking back at that difficult period, I realize how close we came to letting a single incident permanently damage our family bonds. The experience taught me valuable lessons about marriage, family, and conflict resolution. Most importantly, it showed me that even the most challenging family situations can be overcome with patience, understanding, and the willingness to be vulnerable. As our family prepares to welcome its newest member, there's a shared sense of gratitude for having weathered this storm together. The incident that threatened to tear us apart ultimately brought us closer, teaching us all important lessons about love, forgiveness, and the true meaning of family.
I can't just drop everything at work. I have my priorities, my girlfriend said when I asked for her support after my dad had a heart attack. So I decided to prioritize the people who really care about me. So this happened and I'm still processing it. I've been with my girlfriend Danielle for 3 years and until recently, things were really good. We moved in together last year after she got a key to my place and just never left. Not that I minded. We'd spend Sunday mornings in bed planning our future, the house we'd buy, names for kids we didn't have yet, even joking about what we'd do in retirement. She used to say I was her person, her safe harbor. I believed her. Then she got promoted to senior marketing manager at her company 2 months ago. I was genuinely excited for her. She'd been working toward this for years, putting in crazy hours, networking like her life depended on it. She deserved it. The raise was substantial, nearly doubled her salary. I thought we'd finally have some breathing room financially and maybe she could dial back the stress a bit. Boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. Since the promotion, it's like I'm dating a completely different person. She works 12-hour days minimum, takes calls during dinner like I'm not even there, and spends weekends networking at industry events. When I tried talking to her about spending time together, she said I was being unsupportive of her success, and that this was her moment to establish herself in the company hierarchy. The language change was the first red flag. She started talking like a LinkedIn post. Everything became about strategic positioning and career trajectory. Even our relationship discussions turned into business meetings where I was apparently underperforming. I tried to be understanding. I really did. I started making dinner most nights, handling more of the household stuff, giving her space to focus. I figured once she settled into the role, things would normalize. My mom always said relationships go through phases. Then my dad had his heart attack. It happened on a Tuesday morning around 8:30. Mom called me at work, barely able to speak through her panic. "Clark, your father," he collapsed. "They're taking him to Presbyterian. Oh God, I don't know what to do." I dropped everything and raced to the hospital. The next few hours were a blur of medical terms I didn't understand, consent forms, and sitting in that sterile waiting room while surgeons worked on my dad's heart. Mom was a wreck. My sister was driving down from her job 2 hours away, and I felt completely helpless. Around noon, when the initial panic had settled into this horrible waiting game, I realized I should call Danielle. My hands were still shaking when I dialed her number. "Hey babe," she answered, and I could hear the clicking of her keyboard in the background. "Danielle, my dad had a heart attack this morning. He's in surgery right now." There was a pause. The typing stopped. "Oh my God, Clark, that's terrible. Is he going to be okay?" "I don't know yet. The surgery could take hours. I'm honestly freaking out and Mom is barely holding it together. Could you come here? I really need you right now." Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted. "I wish I could, but I'm in back-to-back strategy sessions until 7 p.m. I really can't just leave. I understand it's important, but could you maybe finish your meetings early today? I'm barely keeping it together here. Clark, I know you're upset, but you have your mom and sister there for support. I can't just abandon my professional responsibilities every time there's a family crisis. This meeting could literally determine my department's funding. Every time there's a family crisis. This was the first family emergency we'd ever had. I'm not asking you to abandon anything. I'm asking my girlfriend to be there when I need her most." Her voice got that edge I was starting to recognize. I don't think it's fair of you to put this kind of pressure on me when you know how critical these meetings are for my career trajectory. I'll come by tonight after work if I can, but I can't just drop everything at work because you're feeling overwhelmed. I have my priority. I stared at my phone after she hung up, not sure what had just happened. I spent 6 hours in that waiting room with my mom and sister. My mom kept asking where Danielle was. I made excuses, important meeting, couldn't get away, would be there soon. Each lie felt like swallowing glass. Danielle never came. When I got home at midnight, exhausted and emotionally drained, she was on her laptop in bed, illuminated by the blue glow of what looked like a marketing presentation. She looked up long enough to ask, how did it go? Like I'd been at a dentist appointment. When I told her how hurt I was that she couldn't take a few hours off work for my family emergency, she got defensive immediately, said her new role required significant sacrifices and that she couldn't just abandon her responsibilities, that I was being unrealistic about professional expectations in competitive industries. I stared at her and realized I didn't recognize the person sitting across from me. The woman I fell in love with would have dropped everything. Hell, she once left work early because I had food poisoning. Dad's doing better now, by the way. Triple bypass, but the doctors say he'll make a full recovery. But I can't shake this feeling that I'm completely alone in this relationship. When we first started dating, Danielle always said family came first. She loved my parents, spent holidays with us, talked about wanting to be part of our family someday. Now I feel like I'm competing with spreadsheets and conference calls for basic human decency from my own girlfriend. Am I being unreasonable here? Should I just accept that this is what dating an ambitious woman looks like? I don't want to hold her back, but I also don't want to disappear completely from my own life. Edit, to those asking, yes, I've tried talking to her multiple times. Every conversation ends with her telling me I don't understand the pressure she's under and that I should be more supportive of her growth trajectory. Stop deeming me to dump her immediately. It's more complicated than that. We have a lease, joint credit cards, shared Netflix account, her stuff mixed with mine until I can't tell where I end and she begins. Untangling a life is messier than untangling a heart. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago, so I decided to take a step back. Instead of trying to get Danielle's attention or competing with her job for scraps of affection, I just stopped. Stopped planning our weekends around her schedule. Stopped holding dinner for her while it got cold. Stopped rearranging my entire life to accommodate someone who treated me like an inconvenience. I started going to my parents' house more. Dad's recovery has been tough. He gets tired easily and frustrated that he can't do the things he used to. Mom needed help with appointments, grocery runs, just general support. It felt good to be needed by people who actually wanted me around. I also reconnected with friends I'd been neglecting. My buddy Mike had been asking me to hang out for months, but I kept declining because Danielle always had work events that she needs me as her plus one or was too tired to be social. When I finally called him back, his first words were, "Dude, you look like shit. When's the last time you actually laughed? Not that polite chuckle you do now, but actually laughed until your sides hurt." I realized I couldn't remember. This went on for about 10 days without Danielle really noticing. She'd come home late, find me reading or watching TV, and just go straight to her laptop like I was furniture. Fine by me. For the first time in months, I wasn't walking on eggshells in my own apartment. Then last Saturday happened. I was at Mike's watching football with a few guys from college. We used to do this every weekend before Danielle's schedule consumed our lives. Around halftime, my phone started blowing up with texts from her. "Where are you? I'm home and you're not here. We were supposed to spend today together. This is really immature behavior. I specifically cleared my afternoon for us. Do you know how many important calls I had to reschedule? The sacrifices I make." I was confused because we definitely hadn't made plans. I called her and she was livid. "I specifically told you yesterday that I was freeing up my Saturday afternoon," she said with that familiar edge that meant I was about to be the bad guy again. "You didn't tell me anything. I replied. You've been working every weekend for months. I made other plans because you never include me in yours. That's when she really lost it. Accused me of being passive-aggressive and deliberately undermining her efforts to repair our relationship dynamic. Said I was punishing her for being successful and that I was clearly threatened by her career advancement. The psychological manipulation was so blatant I almost laughed. Almost. I hung up and stayed at Mike's until evening. When I got home, she was waiting in the living room with a whole speech prepared about how relationships require compromise and communication, how she was disappointed in my recent behavioral patterns and needed me to be more present and engaged in our partnership. The irony was absolutely unbelievable. I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "You mean how you were present when my dad was in surgery? Or how you've been present for exactly 0 dinners this month?" She got that look. The same cold, calculating expression she probably uses in boardroom confrontations. "That's not fair, Clark. You know how demanding my role is right now. I'm doing this for our future together." Our future. When do I actually exist in this future? Because right now I feel like an accessory to your life that you remember when it's convenient. The fight that followed was brutal. She kept saying I didn't understand professional pressure in competitive environments, and that she expected her partner to be supportive during this critical growth period. I told her I'd been nothing but supportive for months while she treated me like a roommate she occasionally slept with when her schedule allowed. We haven't really talked since then. She's been even more distant, staying later at work, coming home and going straight to bed. Yesterday she made a passive-aggressive comment about how some people don't understand what real ambition looks like and how mediocre people try to drag down those who are actually succeeding. The thing is, I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just done. My life has been better these past 2 weeks than it has in months. I'm sleeping better, laughing more, actually enjoying my free time instead of sitting around waiting for scraps of her attention like a dog. Edit. A lot of you are asking if I love her. I do. But I'm starting to think the person I fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe she was never real to begin with. To the person who said I'm intimidated by successful women, get lost. This has nothing to do with her success and everything to do with basic human decency. My sister makes twice what I do and her husband doesn't feel like a stranger in his own relationship. Update 2, posted 1 week ago. This is getting messy, Reddit, like really messy, and terrifying. After my last update, things got worse before they got. Well, they're still pretty bad. But now I can see the manipulation pattern clearly, and honestly, it's like watching a psychological thriller where I'm the unwitting victim. So remember how Danielle was giving me the cold shoulder. That lasted exactly 3 days. Then suddenly, she was the girlfriend from our early dating days again. Flowers delivered to my office with a note saying, "Thinking of my amazing boyfriend." Surprise dinner reservations at that expensive Italian place we went to for our first anniversary. Even took Friday afternoon off to surprise me with homemade dinner and wine. I was confused but cautiously optimistic. Maybe she'd realized how distant she'd been. Maybe the stress was finally getting to her and she wanted to reconnect. Then I noticed the timing. This complete 180-degree personality change happened exactly 24 hours after I posted a picture on Instagram of me and my college friends at a baseball game. We all looked happy, relaxed. I was genuinely smiling for the first time in months, and it was visible. The love bombing lasted exactly 1 weekend. By Monday, she was back to her usual routine, but now with added surveillance. She started asking detailed questions about where I was going, who I was with, how long I'd be gone, when exactly I'd be home. When I went to help Dad with some yard work, she texted me every hour asking for status updates. When I called her out on it, she flipped the script completely. "I'm just trying to be more involved in your life since you complained about feeling disconnected," she said with this practiced innocence that made my skin crawl. "I thought you wanted me to show more interest in your activities." That's when I started paying attention to how she actually talked to me. The gaslighting was constant and sophisticated. Every conversation became a masterclass in deflection. I'd say, "I miss spending time together," and she'd respond with, "I don't understand why you're trying to sabotage my career when you know how hard I've worked for this. It feels like you want me to fail." Simple requests became evidence of my character flaws. I asked if she wanted to go to my cousin's wedding next month. Her response, "I don't understand why you're pressuring me about social obligations when you know how demanding my schedule is. It feels like you're trying to undermine my professional responsibilities by overwhelming me with frivolous commitments." I literally just asked if she wanted to go to a family wedding, but the real wake-up call came Thursday night. I was having dinner with my parents and sister. Dad's doing much better, and we were actually having fun for the first time since his surgery. We were laughing about old family stories, and I felt this lightness I'd forgotten existed. My sister mentioned how good it was to have the real Clark back. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You've seemed so diminished lately," she said carefully. "Like you were walking on eggshells all the time. Everything about you got smaller, your voice, your laugh, even the way you sat. Tonight you seem like yourself again." My mom nodded. "We've been worried about you, honey. You always seemed so stressed and tired when Danielle was around. Your father and I have been married for 32 years. Never once has he made me feel like I was inconveniencing him by needing him. That's what love actually looks like." That hit me like a freight train. My own family had been watching me slowly disappear and were too polite to say anything until now. When I got home that night, Danielle was waiting up, which was unusual. She had this weird energy, excited but also tense, like she was about to perform. "I've been thinking," she said, "and I realize I need to be better about work-life balance. So I cleared my schedule this weekend, and I want us to plan something special together. Maybe that hiking trip we talked about, or we could drive to the coast." It should have been good news. Instead, every alarm bell in my head went off. "That's great," I said carefully, "but I'm actually going camping with Mike and the guys this weekend. We planned it last week." Her face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds: surprise, anger, calculation, hurt, then back to that controlled smile. "Of course you are. Right when I try to prioritize us, you have other plans. How convenient." The voice was sweet, but her eyes were ice cold. "Danielle, you literally just decided this 5 minutes ago. I can't cancel on my friends because you suddenly want to spend time together." "Your friends," she repeated slowly, like she was tasting something bitter. "Your friends who are clearly more important than your girlfriend. Your friends who you've been running to every time we have a relationship challenge instead of trying to work things out with me like an adult." The manipulation was so blatant I almost laughed. "Almost. My friends who actually want to spend time with me," I said. "My friends who don't make me feel like I'm bothering them by existing." That's when the mask really slipped. She started yelling about how ungrateful I was, how she was trying to fix things, and I was being deliberately difficult and emotionally manipulative. How I was punishing her for being ambitious and successful, how I was clearly intimidated by her growth. I just sat there watching her perform this victim routine and realized, this is who she actually is. The sweet, supportive girlfriend from our early relationship. That was the performance. This controlling, manipulative person having a meltdown because I wouldn't cancel my plans for her last-minute demands. This is real. Success became her drug. Like any addict, she'd sacrifice anything, relationships, family, basic human decency, for her next fix. The promotion wasn't just a job change. It was permission to become someone I didn't recognize. Or maybe it just revealed who she always was underneath. I went camping, had an amazing time, didn't check my phone once. Came home to 47 text messages and 12 missed calls. The progression was like watching someone's mental state deteriorate in real time. Started with anger, "I can't believe you're being so selfish." Moved to manipulation, "I guess I know where I stand in your priorities." Then guilt. "I'm sitting here alone realizing my boyfriend doesn't actually care about me." But the last few were different. Suddenly she was sorry, she understood why I needed space, she wanted to work on things together like a team. I'm seeing the pattern now. Love bomb, control, punish, repeat. How the heck did I not see this before? Her office friends started treating me differently too. Polite but distant, like I was a problem that needed managing. I realized she'd been controlling the narrative about our relationship for months, probably painting me as the needy boyfriend who didn't understand her success. Edit. To everyone asking, yes, I'm looking at apartments. The lease is in both our names, but I need to get out of here before I lose myself completely. My sister is reading these posts, and she said she's proud of me for finally seeing clearly. She also said if I go back to Danielle after this, she's staging an intervention. Final update, posted 3 days ago. It's over. I moved out yesterday, and honestly, I feel like I can breathe again for the first time in months. First, thank you all for the support and reality checks. After my camping trip, Danielle ramped up the manipulation to 11. She tried every trick in the book, crying, promises to change, threats to hurt herself if I left, even trying to seduce me. When none of that worked, she went nuclear. She called my mom and told her I was having a mental health crisis and that she was worried about my increasingly erratic behavior. She reached out to my friends trying to get them to talk sense into me about throwing away a good relationship. She even showed up at my office to work things out in front of my coworkers, crying and asking why I was abandoning her. But the final straw was when she tried to use my dad's health against me. She sent a long text about how stress was bad for his heart and that I was creating unnecessary family drama during his recovery by being unreasonable and vindictive. Using my dad's surgery, the same emergency she couldn't be bothered to show up for, as emotional leverage. That's when I knew there was no coming back from this. Any remaining doubt I had about who she really was died in that moment. I called my sister, and she helped me pack while Danielle was at work. We moved fast and efficiently. I left a note explaining I was done and that we could handle the lease and shared accounts through email. Blocked her on everything except email for logistics. The past 3 days have been peaceful in a way I'd forgotten was possible. No walking on eggshells. No anxiety about saying the wrong thing. No feeling guilty for having friends or spending time with family. No checking my phone every 5 minutes worried about her mood. I'm staying with my parents for now while I look for a place. Dad's doing great, by the way, back to his old self and thrilled to have me around more. Mom keeps cooking my favorite meals and telling me how much happier I seem. You're filling up the room again, she said yesterday. Last night I went to dinner with friends and actually enjoyed myself without monitoring the time or worrying about getting home by a certain hour. Such a simple thing, but it felt revolutionary. Mike said I looked like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally exhaled. I know some of you are going to ask if I'll try to work things out with Danielle. The answer is absolutely not. This wasn't a rough patch or a communication issue. This was a systematic pattern of emotional manipulation that escalated when I started standing up for myself. The woman I fell in love with was a carefully constructed mask designed to get me invested in the relationship. Once she felt secure, the real Danielle emerged, someone who sees people as accessories to her life story, not as human beings with their own needs and feelings. I'm not angry anymore. Sometimes I catch myself missing her laugh, the real one, not the performance version. I mourn the relationship we could have had if she'd chosen love over ambition. But I don't mourn the person she actually was. She's going to spend her life wondering why she can't maintain deep relationships, never realizing that success means nothing if you have no one who genuinely cares about you to share it with. Dating again terrifies me. How do you trust your instincts when someone spent months convincing you they were broken? How do you know if someone actually likes you or if they're just really good at pretending? But I'm hopeful I'll figure it out. Life's too short to be someone's afterthought. Thanks for all the support. This community saved my sanity. Love you all. I'm too educated to waste time on housework, my fiancée told me, then expected me to handle all of it once we got married. She didn't want a partner, so I let her drown in her own mess. So this happened yesterday and I need outside perspective because I feel like I'm going crazy. My fiancée, Regina, and I have been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months. We're supposed to get married next spring, and I thought we had everything figured out. I work from home as a software developer. She works in marketing at a downtown firm making decent money. Regina works long hours and has a brutal hour-plus commute each way, and since I'm home all day, it made complete sense for me to handle the domestic stuff. I don't mind it at all, honestly. I actually like having control over my space and keeping things organized the way I want them. Yesterday we were talking about our future house because we're apartment hunting for after the wedding. I mentioned how excited I was about having a bigger kitchen since I love cooking and trying new recipes. Regina was scrolling through listings on her phone, and that's when she dropped this absolute bomb on me. She looked up from her phone and said, completely matter of fact, "You know I'm not going to be doing any of that domestic stuff when we're married, right? I'm too educated and accomplished to waste my time on cooking and cleaning. That's beneath me now." I literally thought she was joking at first. I laughed and said something like, "Yeah, right, good one." But she wasn't laughing. Her face was completely serious, almost annoyed that I wasn't getting it. She kept going, explaining how she's worked too hard to build her career to spend her free time playing housewife and doing servant work. Then she told me I shouldn't expect her to cook, clean, do laundry, or handle any of the domestic drudgery just because we're married. The way she said servant work made my blood run cold. Like she was talking about something genuinely disgusting. I asked what she expected would happen if I got sick or injured, or if we had kids someday and I couldn't handle everything alone. She just waved her hand dismissively and said, "We'll figure it out," and that I was overthinking things and creating problems that don't exist. When I pressed her on it, asking what figuring it out actually meant, she got irritated and said that I should be proud to support her career by handling the simple stuff. She said this like it was obvious, and I was being dense for not understanding. I tried explaining that I wasn't asking her to do everything, just to maybe help out sometimes or at least acknowledge that these are shared responsibilities. She looked at me like I was speaking another language. "But you like doing those things," she said. "You're good at them and you enjoy organizing and cooking. Why would I interfere with something you love? Except I'd never said I loved grocery shopping or scrubbing toilets. I do them because they need doing." I kept replaying the conversation in my head all night. The more I thought about it, the more bothered I got. Not about doing housework, but about the attitude behind it. The casual dismissal. The assumption that my time and energy are less valuable than hers, like those tasks are beneath her dignity while apparently being perfectly suitable for me. I'm not some traditional guy who expects his wife to wait on him hand and foot. I believe in partnerships and equality, but partnership means partnership, right? If she's too good for basic adult responsibilities that we both benefit from, what happens when real challenges hit our marriage? Am I crazy for being bothered by this? Edit. For those asking, yes, she does expect me to continue doing everything domestic after marriage. Several people asked if she contributes financially to groceries and household expenses. She splits rent and utilities 50-50, but I pay for all groceries, cleaning supplies, household items, and basically anything domestic related because I'm the one choosing to maintain the household according to her. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago, so I had that conversation with Regina. Just some questions about whether this was really about partnership and mutual respect. Her reaction was enlightening. She doubled down hard, started talking about how progressive relationships work and how I was being traditional and sexist for expecting her to do women's work. She said I was weaponizing household chores to hold back her career success. She got really heated about it, pacing around our living room and lecturing me about how educated women have fought for decades to escape domestic servitude. She said I was just like every other man who wants to drag successful women back into the kitchen. That's when something clicked for me. She wasn't just avoiding chores, she was actually looking down on me for doing them. In her mind, I was the one lowering myself by maintaining our shared living space, and she was graciously allowing me to serve her while she focused on important things. When I pointed out that someone has to do these tasks and asked why my time was less valuable than hers, she said, "Because you're choosing to do work that doesn't matter. I'm building something significant." That hurt. Like, really hurt. I make good money as a software developer. I work on important projects. But apparently because I also wash dishes and fold laundry, my entire professional identity becomes irrelevant. So I decided to respect her standards completely. Sunday morning, I made myself coffee and toast and sat down with her. I said, "You're absolutely right, Regina. You're too accomplished and educated for household work." She looked pleased and a little smug until I continued. "So I'm going to make sure you never have to lower yourself to my level. From now on, I'll only handle my own domestic needs. Your stuff is all yours to manage however you see fit according to your standards." The look on her face was priceless. Complete confusion, then dawning horror as she realized what I was saying. She sputtered something about how that wasn't what she meant, that I was being ridiculous and twisting her words. I stayed calm and said I was just respecting her principles. Here's what I stopped doing for her: cooking her meals, doing her laundry, cleaning her spaces, grocery shopping for her food, toiletries, or personal items, managing any of her appointments, schedule, or personal admin. Picking up her packages, dry cleaning, or handling her errands. I still maintain the common areas because I live here too and have my own standards, but anything specifically hers, she's completely on her own. The first few days were honestly hilarious. She kept waiting for me to crack and go back to normal. Monday morning, she opened the fridge and said, "There's no yogurt," like it was my job to fix that. I said, "Oh no. You should probably get some." She just stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. Tuesday, she came out of her bathroom looking annoyed and said the toilet paper was empty. I said, "That sounds frustrating. You should definitely replace it." She stood there for a full minute waiting for me to do it, then stomped off to find the spare rolls herself. By Thursday, she was getting frustrated. She asked why I was being petty and passive-aggressive instead of just acting normal. I reminded her that she's too accomplished for this stuff, so surely she wouldn't want me to insult her by doing it. The breaking point was Sunday, exactly 1 week after my new approach started. She'd been wearing the same work blouse 3 days in a row because she hadn't done laundry and was running out of clean clothes. Her bathroom looked like a disaster zone. She'd been living off takeout, granola bars, and whatever random food she could grab at the corner store because she refused to grocery shop or cook. She had a complete meltdown, started crying and screaming about how I was punishing her and being manipulative. She said I was making her life deliberately difficult, that couples are supposed to help each other. I pointed out that she'd explicitly said she wouldn't be helping me with domestic stuff after marriage, so I was just giving us both practice for our future dynamic. That's when she said something that really showed her true colors. "It's different. You're supposed to take care of me. That's what men do." There it was. Not we take care of each other. Not partnerships require compromise. I'm supposed to take care of her. Like she's my child or my employer. I asked her to explain how that was different from what she'd criticized as traditional gender roles, and she couldn't give me a coherent answer. We didn't talk for the rest of the day. She slept on the couch and left for work this morning without saying goodbye. When she got home tonight, she tried to act like nothing had happened, but I could see her looking around the apartment, taking inventory of all the things that weren't getting done for her anymore. I'm honestly seeing our whole relationship differently now. So many little things make sense. How she expects me to handle anything inconvenient. How she dismisses my work stress because I'm just at home. How she talks about our future like I'll be managing everything while she focuses on her career advancement. How she's never once offered to help when I'm obviously overwhelmed or stressed about deadlines. Part of me feels bad because she's clearly struggling with this new reality. But another part of me thinks, shouldn't a successful, educated, accomplished woman be able to wash her own clothes and feed herself? Isn't that what being an independent adult means? You guys were right. This was never about the housework. It was about respect, expectations, and her fundamental belief that she's better than me. Edit. Yes, I'm still sleeping in our bed. She moved to the couch on her own. Honestly, I'm curious to see how long she'll stick to her principles when they actually inconvenience her. For those asking about the ring and wedding planning, she's still wearing the ring and hasn't mentioned calling anything off. I think she's waiting for me to fold and go back to being her personal assistant. The wedding planning has basically stopped though, which honestly is a relief since I was doing most of that too. PDATE2. Posted 1 week ago. It's been a week since my last update and things have escalated way beyond anything I expected. First, the family dinner. Regina's parents invited us over this past Sunday for dinner with her brother Mark and his wife Sarah. Regina was stressed about it all week because she'd been living off takeout and energy bars for 3 weeks now. Her clothes situation was getting desperate. She finally broke down and did one load of laundry on Saturday night, and she looked exhausted and frazzled. The thing is, Regina's family is pretty traditional despite being successful professionals. Her mom is a pediatrician, her dad is a corporate lawyer, and they've been married for 30 years with a very classic division of labor. Regina's mom does most of the cooking and household management even though she works full-time, which has always bothered Regina. At dinner, her mom was setting out this elaborate spread she'd clearly spent hours preparing, and she made some comment about how excited she was that Regina found such a good provider, and how nice it must be to have someone who takes care of everything at home so you can focus on your career. Regina's face went bright red. You could see her trying to figure out how to respond without admitting that she'd been failing at basic adulting for 3 weeks. Her brother Mark started talking about how he and Sarah manage their household. They both work demanding jobs but split cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, all of it. Sarah jumped in talking about how they meal prep together on Sundays and how Mark does his own laundry. That's when Regina completely snapped. She went off about how she's too successful to be doing maid work and how educated women shouldn't have to lower themselves to domestic labor. She said she didn't spend years getting her master's degree just to waste her potential scrubbing toilets. The table went dead silent. Her dad looked confused and asked what she meant exactly. So Regina explained in great detail how she'd told me she wouldn't be doing housework after marriage because it's beneath her station. Her own mother looked mortified. Her dad actually said, "Regina, honey, those aren't values we taught you. Your mother has 2 degrees and runs a medical practice, but she still contributes to our household." Her mom asked if I was okay with doing everything forever, and Regina said of course I was because he likes that stuff and he's good at it. She said it like it was obvious and they were being weird for questioning it. That's when I spoke up. I calmly explained that I'd been doing the housework because I work from home and didn't mind contributing that way, but that Regina had specifically told me she was too good for domestic work, so I decided to respect her standards and only handle my own needs now. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah asked how Regina was managing her own basic needs then, and Regina's response was telling. He's being petty and trying to manipulate me into being his servant. Her brother Mark straight up asked her, "So you expect him to be your personal servant while you contribute nothing to your shared household?" Regina lost it. Started screaming about how they didn't understand modern relationships and how they were all stuck in traditional mindsets that hold women back. She accused her entire family of not supporting her achievements and said they were all jealous of her success. Mark pointed out that everyone at the table was successful but still managed to function as adults. We left early. Regina didn't speak to me the entire drive home, just stared out the window looking furious. When we got back to the apartment, she immediately called her friend Jessica to vent about how unsupportive her family was being. But here's where it gets really intense. Yesterday, Tuesday, I came home from a meeting with a client to find Regina in our bedroom with Jessica, going through our finances on her laptop. They'd somehow accessed the spreadsheet where I track all our expenses, bills, and contributions. When they saw me in the doorway, Regina slammed the laptop shut, but I'd heard enough. I asked what was going on, and Regina said they were reviewing our partnership contributions because she wanted to prove that housework isn't the only way to contribute to a relationship. Apparently, Jessica had been telling Regina that I was financially abusing her by forcing her to choose between housework and money. Jessica had convinced her that my new boundaries were actually manipulation and control tactics. But when they actually looked at the numbers, the reality was pretty different from Regina's version of events. It turns out I pay for about 70% of our shared expenses, plus I'd been buying all groceries, household supplies, and even Regina's personal stuff like shampoo, skincare, vitamins, and random things she needed. Regina pays her portion of rent and utilities, and that's basically it. Jessica looked uncomfortable and said she had to leave. But not before I heard her whisper to Regina, "Girl, you've been getting a really good deal here." Like a really good deal. After Jessica left, Regina tried to act like the financial review hadn't happened, but I could see her wheels turning. She'd been telling everyone that I was being controlling and manipulative, but the numbers showed that I was actually subsidizing her entire lifestyle while also doing all the domestic work. That night, Regina finally had a complete breakdown. She admitted that she thought being successful meant other people would handle the lesser parts of life for her. She said her college friends all had boyfriends who took care of everything, and she assumed that's how it worked when you dated someone stable. Here's the kicker. She said she'd been telling her work friends that I was basically her house husband, and that she was the primary breadwinner supporting both of us. When I showed her our actual financial contributions side by side, she got defensive and said my job doesn't count the same way because I work from home and have flexible hours. I asked her directly, "Do you see me as your equal partner or as your employee?" She couldn't answer, just sat there opening and closing her mouth like a fish. Then I asked, "Do you think my time, energy, and money are worth less than yours?" Again, no answer. Finally, I said, "Do you love me or do you love what I do for you?" She started crying and said that wasn't fair, that I was attacking her when she was just trying to be successful. But she still couldn't answer the question. We haven't talked much since then. She's been staying late at work every night and sleeping on the couch when she gets home. I think she's embarrassed about the family dinner and what Jessica saw in our finances. But mostly, I think she's realizing that her worldview doesn't hold up to scrutiny. I've been thinking about calling my cousin Dave, he's a family lawyer, just to understand what getting out of this engagement would look like legally and financially. The wedding's still 4 months away, but I'm not sure there's going to be a wedding. I love Regina, or at least I love who I thought she was. But I'm starting to realize that the person I fell in love with might not actually exist. The real Regina apparently thinks she's entitled to a live-in servant who also pays most of the bills and asks for nothing in return. How did I not see this for 3 years? Edit. Yes, I changed the passwords on our financial accounts after finding them snooping. She has her own bank accounts and access to everything she needs for her personal expenses, but our shared planning documents are now view only for her. To those asking about the ring, it was my grandmother's ring, so yeah, I'll be getting it back if this goes where I think it's going. It means too much to my family to leave it with someone who doesn't value partnership. Final update. Posted 3 days ago. Well, Reddit, the saga has reached its conclusion. Regina came home Thursday night around 9 p.m. and found me in the kitchen meal prepping for the week. Just for myself, like I've been doing for a month now. I could feel her staring, but I didn't acknowledge her. I just kept working, cleaning as I went, wiping down counters, putting dishes in the dishwasher. When I finished, I grabbed a beer and sat down at the kitchen table to plan my grocery list for the weekend. That's when something in her just broke. She started crying, not angry crying, but this desperate, panic sobbing. She said, "This isn't how relationships are supposed to work. You're supposed to take care of me. Partners are supposed to take care of each other." I said, I was taking care of you, Regina. For 3 years, I handled everything you didn't want to deal with. I cooked your meals, cleaned your spaces, managed your schedule, paid for your stuff. But then you told me it was all beneath you, so I stopped. She said I was twisting her words and that she never meant I should stop doing things for her, just that she wouldn't do them herself because she had more important things to focus on. When I pointed out how that sounded, that she expected me to serve her while contributing nothing domestic herself, she got angry and said I was trying to make her look bad. I stayed calm and said, I'm not trying to make you look like anything. I'm just asking what you think a fair partnership looks like. She couldn't explain it. She kept circling back to how she was building her career and shouldn't have to waste time on mundane tasks when she could be focusing on success. Then came the ultimatum. She stopped crying, stood up straight and said, I can't marry someone this selfish and petty. I need a partner who supports my ambitions, not someone who sabotages them with ridiculous power games. I looked at her, this person I'd loved for 3 years, this woman I'd planned to marry, and realized I felt relieved. She was finally saying out loud what this had always been about. I said, okay, I guess we shouldn't get married then. Her face went through about 5 different expressions in 2 seconds. She clearly thought this ultimatum would make me panic and beg her to stay, promised to go back to being her personal assistant and financial support system. So, when things didn't go her way, she completely lost it. She started screaming about how I never really loved her, how I was abandoning her over housework, that I'd never actually supported her success. I was just like every other man who gets threatened when women achieve things. Called me selfish, said I was going to regret this when I realized what I was giving up. I didn't argue. There was no point. She couldn't see that asking for basic partnership wasn't punishment, and I was tired of explaining it. She moved out yesterday, spent Friday packing her stuff while I was at a client meeting, took her clothes, her books, her personal things. Left the ring on the kitchen counter next to a note that said, I hope you're happy, like I was the villain in this story. Her mom texted me later that day saying she was sorry things ended this way, and that she hoped I'd find someone who appreciated what I brought to a relationship. Her dad called me this morning just to say I'd handled everything with class, and that they still considered me family. Her brother Mark sent a message saying, you dodged a bullet, man. Sarah and I both saw this coming. That support meant more than I can express. As for Regina, I heard through Mark that she's staying with Jessica and telling everyone that I showed my true colors by refusing to support her career. Apparently, the story she's telling is that I'm a financial abuser who manipulated her into thinking she had to choose between success and housework, and then abandoned her when she tried to set boundaries. She's completely rewritten history to make herself the victim of my unreasonable expectations. But honestly, I don't care anymore. I'm doing great, by the way. The apartment feels peaceful for the first time in months. I'm cooking what I want when I want. My laundry routine is simple again. I'm not managing anyone else's schedule or needs or artificial crises. Most importantly, I'm not constantly questioning my own worth or wondering why my time and energy seem to matter less than someone else's. The ring is going back to my family safe. Maybe someday I'll give it to someone who actually wants to build a life with me, not have me build a life for them. Edit: the wedding venue and vendors have all been canceled. Most deposits were non-refundable, but honestly, it's worth every penny to not be married to someone who sees me as the help. He's practically the help. Some people are just natural servants. My wife joked to her colleagues, after months of letting me handle all of our housework alone, she never thought the help would quit. So I'm still processing what happened. I don't even know where to start, but I need outside perspective because I feel like I'm going crazy. My wife Aria got promoted to senior marketing director about 8 months ago. It's a big deal. She worked her ass off for it, and I was genuinely proud. The thing is, since then, she's gradually stopped doing any household stuff. At first, I totally understood. New roles, steep learning curve, long hours. Of course, I'd pick up the slack. We're a team, right? But it's been 8 months now, and I'm talking about everything. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, paying bills, taking care of our dog. Even small stuff like refilling the coffee maker or taking out trash. If I don't do it, it just doesn't happen. And it's not like my job is easy. I'm a project manager at a construction company, and we've been slammed with this new downtown development project. I'm coordinating dozens of contractors, dealing with permit issues, and putting in 50-hour weeks, but somehow I'm still expected to handle every single household task. Last weekend was her company's annual gala. Big fancy event, spouses invited. I bought a new suit, took the afternoon off to get ready. I was actually looking forward to it, felt like we hadn't had a real date in months. This was also the first formal company event I'd attended with her since her promotion, and I was genuinely proud to be there as her husband. About an hour into the event, I had to step outside to take a work call. Emergency with one of our contractors. I was gone maybe 15 minutes. When I came back, I couldn't find Arya right away, so I was looking around. That's when I heard her voice from this group by the bar. Honestly, Dylan's basically become a housewife at this point. Maybe he should just give up the construction thing and embrace it, you know. He's practically the help anyway. The group laughed. One of her colleagues said something like, well, if he's good at it. And Arya went, right. Some people are just natural servants. He seems happy enough scrubbing toilets. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My face went hot and I couldn't breathe properly. These people didn't know me at all, and she was painting me as some kind of failed man who was only good for cleaning up after her, my own wife, in front of her coworkers, people who might advance her career. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, then turned and walked back outside, trying to process what I'd heard. Part of me wanted to believe I'd misunderstood, but her tone was so casual, so matter-of-fact. Like she'd said this before, like it wasn't a big deal. Another 15 minutes passed, and this time she came out to find me. I acted as normal as I could when she asked about the work call like nothing had happened. I waited until we got home to bring it up, tried to stay calm, asked if we could talk, told her what I'd overheard and how it made me feel. I said I was happy to support her career, but I felt like she was taking my contributions for granted, and the comment about me being the help really hurt. Her response floored me. No apology. No, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Or I didn't mean it like that. Instead, she said, I mean, was I wrong though? Look at what you actually do all day. When I pointed out that I have a career too, she literally rolled her eyes and said, Dylan, be honest. When's the last time you got promoted? When's the last time you made a real career move? You've been coasting for years while I've been grinding. Maybe this arrangement actually suits you better. Then came the kicker. You're good at the help stuff. It's not an insult, it's just facts. Some people are meant to lead and some people are meant to serve. There's nothing wrong with being what you are. I've been sleeping in the guest room since then. She keeps acting like I'm being dramatic and oversensitive. Says she was just being realistic about our roles and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But here's the thing, I don't think this was just a bad night or poor word choice. I think this is how she really sees me now. Like I'm staff, not a partner. And the fact that she said it so casually to her colleagues means she's been thinking this way for a while. Am I overreacting? Is there a way back from this? Because right now I feel like I don't even know the person I married. Edit. For those asking, no kids, thank God. And yes, I do make decent money. Not as much as her new salary, but I'm not some deadbeat. I manage multi-million-dollar construction projects. A lot of you are asking about couples therapy. I brought it up once a few months ago when I started feeling like roommates instead of spouses. She said we didn't need to waste money on that because our relationship was fine. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago, so after my last post, I spent a few days really thinking about your comments. The one that hit hardest was someone who said, she didn't accidentally disrespect you. She meant to diminish you in front of people who matter to her career. That made me realize this wasn't about division of labor. This was about how she fundamentally sees me as a person. I tried talking to her one more time Wednesday night. She was on her laptop at the kitchen table working on some presentation. I sat down across from her. Hey, can we talk for a minute? About the housework situation. She didn't look up. What about it? I've been thinking about what you said at the gala, and I feel like maybe we need to figure out a better balance. I know your job is demanding, but mine is too, and I'm feeling pretty burned out handling everything at home. Still typing. Arya, can you look at me? This is important. She sighed and glanced up for like 2 seconds. Dylan, you're being exhausting. I already told you you're good at this stuff. Why are you trying to make it complicated? I'm not trying to complicate anything. I just think we should both contribute to. Look, she cut me off, going back to her laptop. I make almost twice what you make now. My job requires me to be on all the time. The household stuff comes naturally to you, and honestly, you do it better than I would anyway. Why fix what isn't broken? But it feels broken to me. I feel like your employee, not your partner. She actually rolled her eyes. Drama much. You have a roof over your head, you get to do work you enjoy, and you're good at managing the house. Most people would call that a pretty sweet setup. That's when it clicked. She wasn't going to change because from her perspective, nothing was wrong. She had a promotion, a clean house, home-cooked meals, and a husband who handled all the boring stuff so she could focus on her career. Perfect setup, right? Except I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her employee, and I had just decided I was done being that. Thursday night after she went to bed, I packed a bag, left a note saying I needed space to think and would be staying at my buddy Mark's place for a while. Took my work laptop, some clothes, and my dog Charlie. Here's where it gets interesting. Friday morning she woke up, found the note, and noticed some of my stuff was missing. She texted me around 9 a.m. Where are you? What's happening, Dylan? I kept it simple. Staying at Mark's for a while, need some space to think. Her response came back within minutes. Seriously, is this about the housework thing? Are you trying to prove some kind of point here? I texted back. I'm not trying to prove anything, Arya. I already told you. I just need some space. This is really childish and unnecessary, Dylan. Fine, do whatever you want. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself without you. Then radio silence for 3 days. I figured she meant what she said, that she could handle everything just fine and was probably enjoying having the house to herself. Then Sunday happened. I get a call at 7 a.m. She's crying, like hyperventilating crying. Dylan, you need to come home right now. I can't find anything. The coffee maker is broken and I don't know how to fix it. There's no food and I don't know what we usually buy. I have a huge presentation tomorrow and I can't focus on anything because everything is a mess. Turns out the coffee maker wasn't broken. She just didn't know you have to put water in it. The no food situation was because she'd never actually done the grocery shopping. Didn't know what brands we buy, where I shop, what our usual meals are. I told her I wasn't coming back just to fix her coffee and do her shopping. She lost it. Started screaming about how I was being vindictive and childish. How dare I abandon her when she needed me. This was what married couples did for each other. The irony was completely lost on her. Monday she texted me 47 times. I counted. Started with anger, you're being ridiculous. Moved to bargaining, I'll help more with housework. And ended with panic, please just come home, we can figure this out. Tuesday she called my work. Actually called my work. Told my boss she was worried about my mental state and thought I might be having some kind of breakdown. My boss, who's known me for 6 years, was confused as hell. Had to explain that my wife and I were having marital problems and she was being inappropriate. Embarrassing as hell. Wednesday she showed up at Mark's place at 9 p.m. with takeout and wine, trying to act like everything was normal. When I wouldn't let her in, she sat in her car outside for 2 hours texting me about how much she missed me and needed me. All that, and not once has she apologized for calling me the help. Not once has she acknowledged that what she said was disrespectful or hurtful. Every conversation is about how inconvenient my absence is for her, how much harder her life is now, how I'm being unfair by punishing her. Yesterday, she sent me a long email titled Our Partnership. It was basically a business proposal. She'd restructure our home management system and implement a more equitable distribution of responsibilities. She used phrases like optimize our household efficiency and leverage our respective strengths. She's trying to negotiate with me like I'm a vendor whose contract she wants to renew. The craziest part, I don't think she's manipulating me consciously. I think she genuinely believes that the problem is logistical, not fundamental. She thinks if she can just find the right combination of chore schedules and task delegation, I'll come home and everything will go back to how it was. She doesn't understand that I'm not her employee who quit over working conditions. I'm her husband who realized his wife doesn't respect him as an equal. Charlie and I are doing fine at Mark's. It's weird how much mental space I have now that I'm not constantly managing someone else's life. I forgot what it felt like to come home and just relax. Still processing all this, but thank you all for helping me see clearly. We'll update if anything major happens. Edit. For those asking about my job situation, my boss was actually pretty cool about the whole thing. Said his ex-wife did similar stuff during their divorce. Apparently it's more common than you'd think. Yes, I'm starting to think about lawyers. No, I don't want to destroy her or anything vindictive. I just want out with my dignity intact. Update 2, posted 1 week ago. Jesus Christ, Reddit. I thought last week was intense, but Arya has completely lost her shit. This is getting scary. So the business proposal email. Well, when that didn't work, she decided to bring in reinforcements. Last Friday, I got a call from her mom. Dylan, honey, Arya is beside herself. She says you abandoned her over some silly argument. Can't you just come home and work this out? Her mom had always liked me, but she only knew Arya's version of events. According to Arya, I suddenly decided I was too good for housework and moved out in a dramatic tantrum because she made one small comment about our division of labor. Then her dad called, then her sister, then her brother. All weekend, different family members calling to tell me I was being unreasonable and breaking apart a good marriage over household chores. By Sunday, I was so tired of explaining myself that I just started saying, "Ask Arya to tell you exactly what she said about me at her company event," and hanging up. Monday was when she really showed her true color. I got to work, and my project coordinator pulled me aside. "Hey man, weird question, but do you have a drinking problem? Someone called asking about your job performance and mentioned alcohol." My blood ran cold. I asked who called and he said, "A woman claiming to be your wife. Said she was worried about you and wanted to know if we'd noticed any changes in your work quality or signs of substance abuse." She called my job. Again. And this time she was trying to sabotage my career by implying I'm an alcoholic. I immediately called her. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting. "Dylan, are you ready to come home now?" I lost it. Told her she had no right to contact my employer, especially with false information about drinking. You know what she said? "I'm worried about you, baby. You're not acting like yourself. Maybe you've been drinking more than usual, and that's why you're being so irrational about our situation." She was gaslighting me in real time, trying to make me question my own sobriety and mental state. That's when it hit me. This is who she really is. Not just inconsiderate or self-centered, actually manipulative. She was willing to potentially destroy my career to force me to come back and resume my role as her personal assistant. I told her if she contacted my work again, I'd file a restraining order. She laughed and said, "Dylan, don't be dramatic. I'm your wife. I'm allowed to be concerned about you." I had to take some time off work to deal with all this shit, switched to part-time and worked from home when possible. Thank God my boss was understanding, because I had 2 major projects I couldn't just abandon. But constantly looking over my shoulder and dealing with her harassment was making it impossible to focus on anything. Tuesday night, she tried a different approach. Showed up at Mark's place again, but this time she was crying and had clearly been drinking. Started pounding on the door talking about how much she loved me and needed me. Mark answered the door and she immediately started telling him what a good friend he was for helping me through this rough patch, but that she was here to bring her husband home. When Mark told her I wasn't ready to talk, she said, "Mark, you don't understand. Dylan has some mental health issues he's dealing with. He's not thinking clearly right now. As his wife, I need to get him proper help." Mark, bless him, told her she needed to leave and that he'd call the police if she didn't. She finally left but sat in her car for another hour. Wednesday, I went back to our house while she was at work to get more of my stuff. I had about an hour before she usually gets home. That's when I found the notebook. It was on her nightstand and my name was on the cover, so I opened it. Holy shit, guys. This woman has been keeping notes about me. For months, pages of observations about my habits and behaviors. Things like, Dylan forgot to replace the toilet paper again, consistent pattern of not completing tasks, left dishes in sink overnight, seems to be getting lazier about cleaning standards, complained about being tired after work, possible depression or lack of motivation, questioned my work schedule again, showing signs of resentment about my success. She'd been documenting everything I did as evidence of my declining mental state and inability to handle adult responsibilities. The most recent entries were worse. Dylan making irrational demands about respect, clearly struggling with my promotion and feeling emasculated, overreacted to harmless comment at company event, possible psychological break. Abandoned marriage without warning, definite mental health crisis, need to document for intervention. This woman has been building a case against me, like she was planning to have me committed or something. I took pictures of every page and got the hell out of there. That night I called a lawyer, explained the whole situation, showed him the photos of the notebook, told him about the calls to my work. He said this level of behavior often escalates and I should document everything. So that's where I am now, staying at Mark's, working with a lawyer and watching my wife of 4 years reveal herself to be someone I never knew. The woman I married would never have kept a secret notebook documenting my flaws, would never have called my job with false allegations, would never have tried to convince people I was mentally unstable. I don't know who this person is, but she's not my wife. My wife died somewhere along the way, and this manipulative stranger took her place. Still can't believe this all started because I objected to being called the help. Edit. For those asking, yes, the lawyer thinks the notebook could be useful in divorce proceedings, especially combined with her attempts to interfere with my employment. No, I'm not posting pictures of the notebook pages. Some of you are getting weird about this. Mark has been an absolute legend through all this. True friend. Final update. Posted 3 days ago. It's over, Reddit. The saga has reached its conclusion, and I wanted to thank everyone who supported me through this insane journey. Yesterday, I signed the divorce papers. Today, I'm in my new apartment with Charlie, drinking a beer and watching him play with his new toys. I feel lighter than I have in years. Here's how it ended. Last Thursday, Arya's behavior reached its peak. She somehow convinced her company's HR department that I was stalking and harassing her at work. According to them, she'd been receiving threatening communications from her estranged husband and was afraid for her safety. Problem was, I hadn't contacted her in over a week. The last text I'd sent was telling her not to call my work anymore. Her plan backfired spectacularly when HR asked to see these threatening messages, and she couldn't produce any. When they pressed her for details, she broke down and admitted she was just trying to get him to come home. Her supervisor was apparently not amused that she'd wasted company resources and potentially opened them up to legal liability by filing false harassment claims. She's now on administrative leave while they review the situation. The same day, she called my mom. My mom told her I was having a breakdown and had abandoned my marriage without explanation. Said she was worried about my mental health and thought my family should stage an intervention. My mom, who raised no fools, asked some pointed questions. When Arya couldn't give specific examples of my supposed mental health issues, Mom asked, "Arya, what exactly did you say to Dylan that made him leave?" Long pause. Then I told him he was good at taking care of the house. Mom, and another pause. I might have said he was like, "Help. Mom, you called my son the help. It wasn't meant to be insulting." My mom hung up on her, then called me to apologize for not seeing what was happening and to tell me she was proud of me for standing up for myself. That conversation with my mom was apparently the wake-up call Arya needed, because Friday morning I got a text. "I understand now. I messed up. Can we please talk?" I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop Saturday morning. Neutral territory, public place. She looked terrible, hadn't been sleeping, clearly stressed. The first thing she said was, "I'm sorry I called you the help." That was wrong. Progress, I thought, until she followed up with, "But I still think you overreacted by leaving. Couples work through these things." I asked her if she'd read her notebook lately. She went pale. "You went through my private things. You left a notebook with my name on it sitting open on your nightstand. I think you wanted me to find it." She started crying then. Real tears, not the manipulative stuff from before. Said she'd been documenting things because she was confused about why I seemed different and thought maybe there was a pattern she could identify. I asked her why her first instinct when I seemed different was to assume something was wrong with me, rather than considering that maybe I was unhappy with our relationship dynamic. She didn't have an answer for that. The conversation lasted about an hour. She apologized several more times, promised to do better, suggested couples therapy. But here's the thing, I realized I didn't want to fix this anymore. The woman I married wouldn't have needed to be taught that calling her husband the help was disrespectful, wouldn't have kept secret notes about his behavioral problems, wouldn't have tried to sabotage his career when he asked for basic respect. I told her I was filing for divorce. She took it better than I expected. Cried, but didn't argue or try to negotiate. Just asked if there was anything she could do to change my mind. I said, "Arya, if your coworker's husband picked her up from work every day, did all her laundry, cooked all her meals, and cleaned her house, and then she called him the help in front of colleagues, what would you think of her?" She was quiet for a long time. "Then I'd think she was a terrible wife." "Yeah, you would. The divorce is no fault, no kids, clean split. She keeps the house, I keep my 401k and my truck. Charlie comes with me, obviously. I'm back to work full-time now, and it's amazing how much more energy I have for my actual job when I'm not constantly stressed and exhausted from managing someone else's entire life. My new apartment is small, but it's mine. I cooked myself dinner last night and ate it in peace. Watched whatever I wanted on TV. Went to bed when I was tired. Woke up when my alarm went off, not when someone was panicking about not being able to find their work clothes. It's amazing how much energy you have when you're only responsible for your own life. To everyone who commented, shared advice, or just listened, thank you. Reddit helped me realize I wasn't crazy, wasn't overreacting, and deserved better. The help is free, and it feels freaking fantastic. Edit, for those asking what happens to Arya, I don't know, and it's not my problem anymore. I genuinely hope she figures herself out, but I'm not sticking around to find out.